in Gerald's Game again.
Oculus.
Oculus Hush.
He loves putting people in houses.
He loves putting people in houses, and he loves that kind of green-blue kind of 50s-esque color scheme. Like it's missing a red channel.
Yeah.
I think, or maybe it's missing a green channel. It's all blue and I don't know. It's something. It's a very distinct look, but he brings out the humanity in the horror a lot more than most of his contemporaries in the horror genre. And he does it while still being freaking scary and freaking disturbing.
Casting Jacob Tremblay was such a smart idea.
And that scene is brutal. That's one of the most brutal scenes, and it's in one of the biggest horror movies of the year. It's just absolutely, kids used to be off limits. Now we're just killing kids left and right in movies. Thanks, It.
Is this gonna hurt? Is this gonna hurt? Yeah. But I love how. So I like the book, but in the original Stephen King book, the Overlook Hotel burnt down. Now, in the Shining movie, the hotel didn't burn down. So I like how Flanagan, he had to bring people in with Kubrick's Shining, but then he also included King's Shining. So I thought it was a really good blending of the two as well. He had a tightrope to walk. He couldn't obviously make a sequel to Stephen King's book, but
I think the worst thing you can do with a sequel to a movie of that stature is make the original worse. And what this does, it makes the original better.
Ooh.
I think The Shining is a better movie now that I've seen Danny grown up as Ewan McGregor and having that scene where he returns to the hotel. And I love the scene in Dr. Sleep where he returns to the hotel and the lights are just coming on as he enters rooms, as if his memory space is being illuminated, as if he's like branching into his own psyche. And then he meets his father at the base of his psyche. And I did not realize until much after that's Elliot from E.T.
Whoa. No. Wait.
Perfect.
What?
Yeah. That's Henry Thomas.
Henry Thomas was
Jack.
No way.
Yeah.
Henry has a good hookup with Flanagan. Gerald's Game, Haunting of Hill House.
I think spoilers are off the book now. We've been just spoiling things left and right, but
yeah. Yeah.
But another thing I want to point out is the absolutely gorgeous scene in which Rose the Hat kind of astral projects and finds the girl in the bedroom. That is one of the most visually stunning things I've seen all year.
And a lot was asked of Kylie Curran. It's like a first-time actress as Abra Stone.
Yes.
She nailed it.
And she's fantastic. And Ewan McGregor's great in it, too.
Yeah, I guess I'm so used to him being good. And I like Crow Daddy. I like that Zach McClammon, who was from Fargo and one of my favorite episodes of Westworld's in it. I loved Cliff Curtis. I like that Snake Bite Andy girl.
All the visual effects were like top-notch and disturbing, too. Like the dying of the vampire characters is just, it's weird and eerie.
And her speech about that guy, the guy dies, and her speech about him tearing down empires, like the Roman empires, and killing kings.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man,
even the villains get this humanity to them, this kind of community humanity that's just like everyone has layers and layers of depth to them in a Mike Flanagan film.
They're very near dark-esque.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. All right, you want to move on to one?
I mean, I think we talked about this movie on our best of the decade list,
and we didn't give it as much love though, because we can. This movie, you talk about it. Go for it.
Well, before we get to that question about our decade horror list, is there any movie you saw since our decade horror list that you would include? Because I would probably include Dr. Sleep.
Yeah, I put Dr. Sleep in at probably 10.
Mm-hmm.
I don't Crawl, number 1.
The Shallows.
Oh gosh, yeah. No, I mean
that.
But yeah, maybe Dr. Sleep. But I love One Cut of the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I thought our top 10 was really good, man.
Yeah, and I do have a special slot in my own list that is a special jury prize for television, and I want to shout out to Chernobyl.
So good. And Legion.
Which I I haven't watched Legion yet, but Chernobyl, that is a show that would have really terrified me as a kid, the way like JFK terrified me as a kid when I watched it.
With dust particles, and when dust particles make you cringe, you know a movie's doing something right.
It's just awful. And episode 4 of that show is just pure horror, where they have to send assassination squads for all the house pets. Ugh.
But this movie, Climax.
All right.
Gaspar Noé.
Climax. That is our number 1 of the year because it was on our best of the decade list.
And if we put it at our number 2, we couldn't really leave it out. This is our number 1. But we're not just doing it for that. I mean, this is a movie that goes to basically hell. And it features like the dancing in it, but just how it goes into madness. Like poor Omar, right? Poor Lou. Like people's hair gets light on fire because there's no cocaine. A child electrocutes himself. It's just I love this movie.
And then a woman goes full possession.
Yep.
In a room alone.
And then, I mean, but in this movie, it ends on such a downer, but it's such a successful, I liked not knowing the characters. I liked not knowing I only knew who one actor was. So I really liked that. It deserves a number 1 spot. I know some people don't like this movie because, some people have mentioned that the characters are nothing characters and you don't really care for them. However, that doesn't really matter. I don't think that we needed to know who these people were.
Yeah, I think they're a community of dancers, and that's what you see in pretty much the first moments of the film. You see them on separate televisions, kind of talking about how they want to be a part of this dance troupe. And then we get to see them all moving beautifully together in this wonderful continuous shot. And then they have an after party, and they continue to play and dance together. And it's all very lovely. And it's all just one person. It's like, it's one group of people. And then we start going to the separate little 2 shots and people separating and having conversations which are just complaining about each other.
Yeah.
And so you get enough of their character to know that they have a character. I don't think you need to show any other depth because of the kind of world it's painting and and then the next time we see them, everyone's trapped in the abyss of their own trip. So everyone's just living their own reality.
Man, it's so good.
It's so good.
I felt bad for the little kid, though.
Oh, of course. I felt bad for little kid in Dr. Sleep.
Oh,
what do we have against little kids
on
this list?
Yeah, we've in our top 4, 5. Yeah, our top 2, man. Little kids getting wiped out.
I had It Chapter 2 on my list, and that little girl just gets it dirty.
Oh, yeah. But that scene, she just goes under the bleachers, right? That scene? He's such a jerk.
I don't like him very much. He seems mean.
But I don't know, man. So I watched some clips again for this film just to kind of get me in the headspace of it again. And I actually showed the trailer to my students, and they're like, Mark, what was that? But I think, all right, so I think this is what this movie has really stuck with me. And it just dragged me down watching it. And I guess a lot of Noé's movies have done that, Irreversible, that kind of stuff. But it just really, I don't know, it felt like Goodfellas. Not the feeling I got, just feeling exhausted after watching it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you kind of have
that? Was an experience, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it helps that, unlike a lot of his other films, it's shorter.
Yeah.
It's under 100 minutes. It might even be 90 minutes. It starts with such joy and loveliness. And in fact, halfway through the movie, there's a credit sequence.
Yeah. I love that.
And it's as if that the worst part of the movie, the worst trip, would you agree it's the worst trip ever committed to film?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, it's the longest.
Yeah. It's the longest, yeah. And it's made to look like one continuous 45-minute shot.
So good. Hey, One Cut of the Dead and this are in there.
Yeah. Oh. And then that is essentially an after credit scene. So what you would see, like, well, what's Thanos up to now? In the next, oh, he's tripping his balls off.
Yeah, he'd have been in bad shape with this stuff. And it turns out that, what was her name? Psyche? The woman who did this? The Russian with their LSD eye drops?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. That hair lighting on fire, and then the aftermath where she's trying to put water on her head.
Oh, so awful. Everyone's just, I don't think that criticism, I think that criticism that no one has a character is more of an observation than a criticism. I think that's part of the design of the piece.
And I think with a lot of these actors, they have their own, they're very good at what they do. So there is an ego to them, right? They're trying to, these are some of the best, and they learned really quick. So I could see them having this ego, like, you know, they're as together, they're a dance troupe, but individually they think they're the best.
Mm-hmm. And the dance they do. The dance that they are performing is this kind of mix of group dance and solos kind of mixed together. And then there you have that overhead shot of them doing their kind of solo thing, and it just devolves into them just getting so tired that we just get an empty dance floor in the mid-credit sequence.
I love this movie.
I do love the opening shot. Well, the opening shot of the bloodied woman coming out in the snow, and it just is so stark white. And then the closing credits, of course. But then you have the TV shot. And the TV shot on either side of the TV are materials that will train you how to take the movie in. Mm-hmm. So on this side, you have movies that influence Gaspar Noé, like Eraserhead and Possession. And there's a scene from Possession in this film, like almost ripped from Possession. And then what I thought was interesting was there's Suspiria there. And what I thought watching this again was that this is a better remake of Suspiria than the remake of Suspiria.
I agree.
Because it's not about, it's not about the story of Suspiria, but it is a movie that is dealing in the same sensory experience that something like Suspiria is doing. And in fact, one of my reviews is just a fictional conversation between Luca Guadagnino, I think that's his name, who directed Suspiria, saying, like, I'm going to remake Suspiria and treat it like an art film. It's going to have lots of dancing, and it's going to have this red-lit hellscape at the end. And Gaspar Noé just says, hold my beer.
Yeah. I agree, man. I'm very happy this is number one. If someone, well, no one's going to come at us for this, but I think this is, I think you should watch it.
Would you say
what's up?
This is the only Gaspar Noé film you would want to watch a second time?
You know what? I've watched several of his films. I've only watched them once, and I've watched this multiple times. So yeah, I guess so.
Like, I keep wanting to watch Enter the Void because there's so many little bits of it that are so great. It has the greatest opening title sequence in film, maybe. But that is a 2.5 hour slog of despair. This at least gives you some levity and then drops you down further into despair.
And it's 90 minutes.
And it's 90 minutes. You're in and out of despair in 90 minutes.
I love it. Well, well, thank you so much for joining me, man. I love our top 12.
I do too. I think this is, the more I think about it, the more it's a really great year for horror. And I think it's a year in which the, popular critical community is catching on that horror is a vital, important form. And there's not, I had nowhere to go with that.
Elevated. It's a vital, it's elevated.
Oh no, it's not elevated.
Hey-o.
The original Suspiria was an art film, damn it.
I just totally wrecked your train of thought. You were saying something brilliant. Critics are catching on to it finally?
Critics are catching on to it, and they're not treating it like the, evil, disgusting thing that you shouldn't take too seriously. It is a serious form, and it's a serious genre, and it's a genre in which the movies last.
Whoa.
Like, if you look back at any era of film, you look at the horror films, and you can really see what the culture was thinking at the time.
Wow. So on this one, we have Climax, top 5, Climax, Dr. Sleep, One Cut of the Dead, Lighthouse, Midsommar. What does that say about society?
We're all lost in the abyss of our own personal realities, and we don't share the same view of the world.
Whoa. And fart noises.
Also, farting in a lighthouse.
A light fart. All right, on that note, hey, so for me, Mark Hoffmeyer, and for Zachary Beckler, check out Interior. You're going to love that movie. This is Movies, Films, and Flicks. We'll see you next week.
Awesome.
Light fart.
Light fart.